you have 3 close friends at work. You're happy with your life. You're happier with your life. Business part is going to fly through too. So that's why culture is so important to me.
Welcome back to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life, where we explore ways to achieve those two goals. We invite amazing, fun people on to help us. And that's why I'm very happy to welcome Randy Crabtree, CPA, co-founder and partner of Tri-Merit Specialty Tax Professionals. He is a widely followed author, lecturer, and podcast host specifically for the accounting profession. So, Randy, I know one thing that entrepreneurs hate to talk about is accounting.
Well, man, we're starting out with the bang here.
But why do you think that is? Why do you think we don't really want to know what's happening with our books?
You know what? Because it's not a passion. You didn't start your business to do accounting, to do books, to look at numbers. You started your business because you enjoy, being a restaurateur, or you enjoy, whatever it is, and hopefully you enjoy it. But the numbers part is almost like somewhat of a necessary evil for most people, especially when you come with numbers and math. Everybody, I hate numbers, I hate math, whatever. I love math, I love numbers, but that's because I'm an accounting geek, I guess. And I shouldn't say that, because accounting is a really cool profession. It is an awesome profession, but I think that's it. I think it's just a matter of, that's not why you became an entrepreneur, to look at numbers all day long. You became an entrepreneur to help somebody, to have a passion for what you're doing.
But I actually think, as an entrepreneur myself, Randy, I think it's more than that, because two other things that go along with what you just said is that we don't like what the numbers might be telling us, and we don't really know what the numbers are telling us.
Yeah,
right.
I agree, and that knowledge is huge. So for me personally, I don't really do anything anymore. I just go out and talk. I talk about taxes. I talk about it, but the tax part obviously goes along with the accounting part. And most people they think accountant and they think, okay, you're doing the numbers. There's two different varieties, and really there's multiple. But for me, you're either on the accounting side or you're the tax side, and I'm the tax side. Okay. The accounting side is where you really need somebody that is an expert, not only in the accounting aspects in general, but of your industry. I think it's really, really important to find an accountant that is a niche, a specialty in whatever area you're in, because they know your business, they know the industry, they know what's going on. And then they can do what you just mentioned, rather than not understanding the numbers, they can educate you. They can make it simple. They can talk. There's a guy I know real well, Luke Templin, and Luke has this software that he's just developed now called FinDaily. And what it does, and I'm no expert on it, but what it does is it, on a daily basis, it's just going to send you an email of like key numbers off your financials, and everybody's financials should really be up to date, because QuickBooks Online or whatever you're using, it should almost instantaneously now. And this software will just send you an email every day. Hey, here's the key things. Here's the key numbers you need to look at. And that's even not even sitting with your accountant. That's just an email, and it helps you understand. And so I'm rambling because I get passionate about this, but yes, finding somebody that is passionate about your industry, knowledgeable about your industry, and then not just meeting with you on January 31st and let's see what happened last year, meeting with you on an ongoing basis to review the numbers, to find anything that, is out of the ordinary that you can fix quick, rather than the year later and then just report what happened. You need an advisor, not a reporter.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I know that, actually last week we were just talking to a gentleman, Simon Severino, and he was saying, you need to know what it is that you're doing in your business that's having a good result. And if you're not tracking those numbers, you really just don't know, right? You're just throwing a lot of mud at the wall and like, oh, I wonder where that lead came from. I wonder what's working.
Right. A lot of people, their knowledge or their expertise in the financial end of things is, what's my bank account balance today? That doesn't really tell you much. You have enough to pay payroll or something, but you don't know. Your bills could be piling up, or your receivables can be really late. There's all these things that you're not looking at just by looking at the bank balance, but that's probably the most common thing people look at to try to get an idea of where they are financially. And that's not going to tell you the story.
Yeah, it's like there was when I was younger, think, but how can I be, what do you mean I have no money? I still have checks left. It's that kind of thing. There's money in my account. Of course I'm solvent, but you're not, if you understood. So how
Right.
does that all tie into the tax piece of it? Because I know, I mean, of course I'm in real estate, so there's so many great tax advantages being in real estate.
Yep.
But we were talking before we started airing that there are a lot of tax benefits for other professions as well.
Oh yeah. So that's why I get excited about the tax end of things, because again, as a and I don't prepare taxes anymore. I used to. Now I just talk about them. But as a tax preparer, you can, same thing. You can be an advisor or an effector of the tax return, or you can be a reporter of the tax return. I'm going to report what happened last year. That happens too often. And a lot of times it's the taxpayer's fault. They just don't want to talk to anybody all year long. And here's my stuff at the end of the year, and now tell
Yeah.
me what happened. But as an advisor, as an effector of the tax return, you can look at this on an ongoing basis during the year. And there are so many, our business, which is called Tri-Merit, deals with tax credits and incentives. There are so many benefits out there, tax credit wise, that you can save money on your tax return by identifying these things early, starting to track them, starting to analyze what makes sense. Do we use something today, or is it not right timing? Let's use it tomorrow. And so, I mean, that's the exciting part for me with taxes is I can affect the cash flow. I can affect the income. I can affect the lifestyle of this business owner, because we just it's not uncommon for us to, save a taxpayer $100,000 in taxes. That's a big number. And so it gets pretty exciting when you are able to tell somebody, yeah, here's the savings you're going to have, rather than as a reporter, here's what you owe. And so it's a lot different conversation.
And people might think, oh, it's just sort of generic, like one person's going to do it the same as the other. But I know that's not true. When I first I've changed accountants. Unfortunately, he's retired now, but I changed my tax preparer several years ago, and I brought mine from the year before, and he looked them over, because they always ask you for last year's taxes, right? And he looked them over and he said, if you just do this and change this thing and file this amendment, then you're going to be in a whole different situation. And he saved me more than I paid him for the next like 2 years. So
Right.
yeah, and I wasn't even making that much at that time. So it's unbelievable when you really start talking to somebody who's very good at what they do, and like your firm, where you really love it and enjoy it and want to dig deep into what.
Right. So what you just said is so important, because a lot of times people are like, we'll go cheap. Well, I'm going to get my tax return done for $500 because, I don't want to spend money on that. And you just said it. There's a value there. I have so many people that I deal with from a tax side. We support tax preparers with our services. They basically bring us to their clients, where they can go in and they can show the value of what they brought. Rather than paying me $1,000 for a tax return, I can show you that I just saved you $50,000, and my fee was, $6,000, but do you want that extra 44,000, or do you want to pay $1,000 for the tax return and leave it there? So being able to communicate the value of that from a tax preparer standpoint, I think is really important. And then educating your clients on, hey, yeah, there's more than just reporting.
Yeah. Oh, so true. And because there are so many nooks and crannies in the tax code, which is an ever changing, ever evolving mess.
Yep, it is. And that it actually, for us, is this the right word? Selfishly? I don't think it's selfishly, but from a benefit standpoint for our business, it's been very lucrative, because we jump on top of any new changes that come out. There's a brand new thing that just came out. Renewable energy tax credits came out a year ago, and this thing's going to be huge. And so every time new tax law comes out, we jump on it. We have a significant number of people on their team, and we have experts in different areas, and they can jump in it. And man, if you can be nimble enough to add a new service that quickly, financially, it'll in any industry, that's a thing. Don't have tunnel vision just on. I mean, a niche practice is extremely important to me. Whatever you're doing, having a niche expertise. But our niche is specialty tax. And when there's a new thing that comes out, rather than have blinders on, and I'm not going to look at this. We're going to analyze it, and we're small enough to be nimble enough to analyze that ASAP, and we're big enough to have bandwidth to offer those services then.
So you brought up something that I wanted to talk about, not necessarily with you, but something that I've been thinking about. So renewable tax credits, with that, for example, I have a commercial building. If I put solar panels on that building, is that covered, or would I have to be a person who's doing renewable energy as a business?
Oh boy, you're getting me going now, huh? So what you just said is that is part of this new huge opportunity. The part there are individual credits if you put solar on your house, and that what I deal with is the business side and the commercial resident or commercial real estate side. And so yes, that is a scenario where there's a credit. You put solar panels on your commercial building. Most likely that's going to be at least a 30% credit. So you spend $100,000, most likely it starts at 6%, but it's very easy to get up to a 30% credit. Most likely you got an immediate tax savings of $30,000 on that. Now there's a little tax effect. So let's just say it's $28,000, not to get too technical. Let's just stick with 30. Now, in addition, there's bonus depreciation. Again, not to get technical, but I'm going to write off the $100,000. I'm going to save I'm going to write off a big portion of $100,000. I'm going to save another $30,000 on taxes. Now, in the first year, I just saved $60,000 on my $100,000 investment. And there's potential bonuses out there where you can actually get a credit up to as high as 60 or 70%. And so they put a lot of incentives to basically create these incentives to make it easier for people to invest money in renewable energy, because the return on investment and the break-even point has shrunk so much. Because once you've paid for it, your energy is free now, and that's in perpetuity. And so the user of renewable energy, like you just said, credit. Producer of renewable energy, credit. Somebody that manufactures equipment used in renewable energy, credit. Somebody that manufactures pieces that go into the final product of renewable energy equipment, there's a credit. And so, and even nonprofits, you have a church that puts solar panels on, they never get tax credits because they don't pay taxes. This becomes a refundable credit for a nonprofit. And so there's tons of incentives. You're getting me excited now, because this thing is huge. The opportunity is estimated to be, and sorry to bore people with tax, but taxes are exciting. Taxes are fun. Taxes are saving money. They're putting money back in your pocket.
That is fun.
And this is estimated to be over $1 trillion in tax savings over the next 10 years. Compared to, some people out there might know the R&D, research and development tax credit, which is a huge opportunity. That's 1/10 of what this renewable energy tax credit is going to be. So it's very exciting.
Well, and I just want to make sure that people understand too, this is not a tax deduction. This is a tax credit, right? So if you owed 50,000, now you owe 20,000, right? I mean, this is not coming off your income.
Look at you. You're a tax expert now. All right. Nice.
I understand the credit part.
Right. That's good. That's good. Yeah. No, so that's exciting for me. And it probably shows through.
Yeah. But that's great. I mean, that's what you want to work with, someone who's passionate about what they do, who gets lit up about saving you money. I mean, what better person could you possibly work with? What better firm could you work with than someone who is so excited to save you money?
Yeah, and this goes to the whole theme of, hey, let's become financially independent. We're putting more money back in, and when we have that, maybe hopefully we have better lives as well, and we live longer. So there, I'm going back to the theme.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, Randy, because you were telling me that you are a stroke survivor, and my dad had a stroke. He didn't speak anything like you. He didn't act anything like you. I mean,
I'm very fortunate from a standpoint that physically I've fully recovered. I mean, no deficits. I am not the norm when it comes to stroke survivors. Most stroke survivors, and I think the number is about 92% have some kind of deficit. I mean, I have little spot in my brain here that doesn't exist anymore, but apparently the rest of my brain took over because physically I haven't been limited at all. So mentally I struggled for about 5 years afterwards, just because of the whole, mortality. I'm going to die any minute now. Every time, a twinge went in my head, I'm about to die. What's going to happen? But I'm very fortunate. I'm past that now, and I get to do a ton of public speaking now on mental health and avoiding burnout. And I'm kind of doing the circuit out speaking about those things, which I feel like it's extremely important because there's a lot of stress in every profession.
You feel like that contributed to your stroke?
It's hard to say, but it didn't help for sure. I have a hard time committing to say yes, that was what caused it. Because then half the time you never know what caused your stroke. For me personally, I had a hole in my heart, and they assume that allowed a clot to go straight up to my head rather than get filtered through my lungs.
I see,
That
yeah.
probably was, but where'd the clot come from? Maybe stress related, maybe work related. And we were at a point in time in our business where I knew we were on a nice steady growth, and I knew we were going up the hockey stick. I mean, we were going to go straight to the sky, and I knew that was coming. And honestly, I personally didn't probably feel prepared for that. I started our firm. I helped grow the firm, and manage it at the beginning, but I am not, and this is a key thing I think for people to hear. I am not at process, procedures, KPIs, I am not the financial statement, dig deep in, even though I'm a CPA. And I realized that after my stroke, and it was like, okay, there's no reason for me to do this. Even though I started this, it's not my identity to be managing partner of this firm. I need to give this role up. And I did. And boy, I mean, 2 straight years now, we have been on Inc. magazine's 5,000 fastest growing privately held companies in the US. And I think a big part is my partner taking over that managing partner role, which he's well suited for. And I probably should have let him take that over years ago, but it was an ego thing probably with me. Don't let your ego get in the way. But then it was also me going out and just being on the road, talking, educating, sharing knowledge, which I think is extremely important. So we've been very fortunate that we've had that growth.
That's a great thing to talk about, though, because I feel it's very difficult for entrepreneurs to step back when the time has come. And even though you might not be the best at XYZ, you're just going to keep doing XYZ because it's my baby and I got to do it. If I don't do it, it won't get done right. Right. How
Exactly.
did you get rid of that mindset? Or did you just say, well, if it doesn't get done right, it's okay because I want to live?
Yeah, it was somewhat just, it was more of a, I needed to change my role. It just, partly it was, 5 years after the stroke, I was dealing with depression and PTSD and panic attacks. And it was like, I'm not helping this business if I continue this way. And so, but then looking back, and it took me a long time. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16 years old. I started my first business at 16, and I had an accounting firm, I had a real estate development firm, I had a window washing firm, I've got this specialty tax firm. I've done all these other things, and I always felt like it's my baby, it's my thing. I've got to control it. And it took me, 55 years to realize, no, there's, and we talked about this at the beginning. You have passions. My passion wasn't running the business. My passion is starting a business. My passion is growing a business. My passion is talking, which it probably shows through. My passion's educating. My passion is meeting new people. And so let's design a role where I can incorporate those and let someone else do these things I don't like doing. Just because I started it, I don't have to do all these other things like you said. I don't have to be the installing our EOS system. I don't have to be managing that process. I don't have to be head of HR. I don't have to, all these things. And it took me a long time to realize that we were much better off without me doing those things. And it's a big change, but I look back now, it was the greatest thing I ever did. It only took me 55 years to realize it, but it was the greatest thing. So if I can educate people on doing that today when they're younger in their careers or younger in their entrepreneur business, I think it's extremely important.
Yeah. And it's great because we actually did talk a little bit about this last week again to sort of tie it together.
Yeah.
And you know what Simon was saying is this exactly what you're saying. If what you're doing isn't when you do this thing and it's like, oh, I hate doing this. Oh, I'm dreading doing this. I'm no good at this. Right. If that's what's happening, that's a perfect thing to put on your list to offload, right? How can I
Yes.
get somebody to do this?
Yeah. I'm
And
gonna have
even
to
if,
talk to this Simon person.
yeah, right. You guys have a lot in common. You can really connect here. But that's a great, and even if you feel like, oh, I can't afford right now to hire a full-time person, so that get a VA, get somebody just to come in part-time and do some of those tasks that you're dreading, and your
Yes.
energy level is going to go up. You're going to be more excited, right? It's just completely, it makes
Oh
so
yeah.
much sense.
I don't feel like I work a day at all anymore. I mean, nothing I do is work because I love everything I'm doing. And that was not always the case. So I like you just said, the cost, don't worry about the cost because you're freeing you up to do the things you're passionate about is really just going to help the business and the revenue is going to come.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing you can't afford not to do, really.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what kinds of things, like let's say someone is, here's a question that I get a lot, and I don't know if you want to speak to it or not. It's okay if you want to say, hey, not my forte. But a lot of people, they're doing a side gig and they have their 9-to-5 W-2 job and they want to make that transition. Are there any indicators to say, like, obviously, oh, as soon as that side hustle pays as much as your 9-to-5, but sometimes it could, right? If you could just cut the cord. So is there a time when you say, okay, you're probably going to be okay if you do this?
Yeah. So here's my problem with being able to answer that is I have this issue where I don't see risk. And so I'm one that just jumps into it. It's like, hey, there's an opportunity. Let's just do it. And everybody has opportunities in front of them all the time. Whether you go for it or not, that's just a personal thing. You don't, if you want to let something go by, that's fine. But for me, it was just hey, there's an opportunity. I see a need. I see how I can fill that need. I feel comfortable we can build this business. And so I just jump into it. So that would be my advice. The problem is not everybody has my mindset that way. And people want to make sure they're financially sound before they do it. And so it's the side hustle's great, but if you're just thinking that way, it's never going to change. And you know what? Take the risk. Again, personalities play into it. And so like I said, I'm probably terrible to answer this because my answer would be just do it. Just don't look back. Especially if you're passionate about it. If it's just like another job, well then no, don't do it. If it's a passion project, it's something you love doing, it energizes you. Well, that's going to show through when you do that, and people are going to see that and they're going to start flocking to you. So yes, if the passion's there, I just say go for it.
And that's actually the perfect answer because both of what you said, both of the things that you said, because if you're afraid that the minute you quit your job that you're not going to have enough money, then that's the absolute wrong mindset, right?
Yep.
To go into it with. If you're afraid you're going to be broke, you're going to be broke, guaranteed. So once you can get to that point where you're like, I can't not do this business, right? I have to do this. I love it. It's my passion. Then just trust that it's going to all come together for you and that it's all going to work out fantastic, right? And just make the leap.
Yep. And I'll say this, I mean, I struggled for years, with whatever business, there's good times, there's bad times, and you just have to know if your passion, the good times are going to end up coming. And that's why I just say, it's it, do it. It's time.
Yeah.
I think I'm done. I was going to say, I think I'm done starting businesses, but I'm probably wrong because I am. It appears that I'm now going to be more and more out on the professional speaking circuit. So technically, that's another new business.
Cool. That's fun. I know I hate when people ask me what I do. Like, oh, let's see.
I can't answer it. I'm like, someone asked me, I'm like, I hesitate every time. I'm like, I stuff. I do stuff.
I know. No, I'll say, well, my latest project is, right?
Yes. Yep.
But I can't tell you all the stuff I do because we just don't have enough time.
Yeah. Well, that's cool because you like a lot of things.
Yeah. I love to start things.
Yeah. See, you and I, here we go. We're starters.
Yeah, exactly. So what now in your average day, or when you're having a really great day, what kinds of things are you doing that you're enjoying the most? And it doesn't have to be work stuff.
It's work related. Okay, so there's two things. I love just talking to feel, whether I am or not, but feel like I'm educating somebody some way. That doesn't feel like work to me. So that part I enjoy. If we're talking non-work related, and honestly things don't feel work related to me that much at all, it's my wife and I love traveling. We actually head out. We're in Chicago area, suburbs. We leave the Chicago area, January, February, half of March, and we just travel Southwest, do a bunch of hiking, tour wineries, make sure that I'm refreshed when my busy time starts again, which is after tax season.
Yeah.
Is my busy time when I'm on the road. So we do that kind of stuff. But from a business standpoint, I do this. I host a podcast. I host a conference that just ended last week. We had 200 people out in Chicago, a conference where community is so important to me. And we just create this community of like-minded, not even like-minded, people who have really unique ideas to elevate whatever profession we're looking at. So I get to do that, write articles on a profession, working on a book currently. And so you heard nothing of what I said is I'm doing tax returns. That's not my thing. It's all these other things I enjoy doing.
Yeah. Well, but then you did your time. You put your time in for tax returns, and now
That's
you're doing
right.
better stuff, more
That's
fun
right.
stuff, right?
That's right. It's just, for me, it just took getting older.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Whether you want it to, whether you're ready or not, that
Yep.
happens.
Yep.
So what would you tell a person who's just getting ready to start their business? Is there like a piece of advice or like from the accounting or the numbers perspective that they just that would help them to make life a little easier?
Yeah, it's a couple of things we already talked about, but it's make sure you're following your passion. Make sure you're not just doing it because this is what you're good at. What you're good at and what you're passionate about can be two different things. Make sure it's your passion thing. Make sure you realize you don't have to do it yourself. You mentioned this earlier. You can outsource everything. There is nothing that you do that someone else can't do. And honestly, if you're starting, I'll just stick to my profession. You're starting a bookkeeping business. You could be very good at bookkeeping. You're going to be competing with 10,000 other people that are very good at bookkeeping. So you have to differentiate yourself. So I think the niche is important. Become really good at not just bookkeeping, but become really good at bookkeeping for restaurants. And now that niche shows through. So follow your passion. If eating at fine dining is my passion, why don't I start doing bookkeeping for restaurants? Okay, boom. Now I got that. Now, share your knowledge as well. Don't hide it behind a curtain somewhere. Don't make people pay for your services, but not pay for educating on things. And so for me, I think that's so important. So I'm going on a ton of tangents. Follow your passion, create a niche, outsource the things you don't like doing.
Excellent. Excellent advice. I love that. So Randy, what else? Is there anything else you want to talk about? I mean, we can, I can ask you questions. We can just be having a good session, enjoying each other's company. But I want to make sure that we talk about things that you feel that you want the audience to know.
Yeah, if we want to take a detour, and I mentioned this to you earlier, we are one of the fastest growing privately held companies, and for me, that's because we make our employees the most important thing. The client will come. If employees are first, the client will come. And so, we have our whys written down. Our whys are to bring, integrity to specialty tax. And our why is, we have a couple whys. But for me personally, when I talk about my why is the people that I work with. That they're the most important thing to me. And so culture in general, I know we touched on it a little bit ahead of time, but I just want to, even before we recorded, but the one of the most important things to me is your corporate culture, we're at 72 people now. I think in the last 5 years, we may have lost one person.
Wow.
Which is replacing one person. It's like 1.5, 2 times their salary to replace one person is the cost. So if you can create a culture where you don't lose people, where people enjoy working together, where people have passion for what they're doing, it's just so important. And so, as an entrepreneur, make sure that you're not there cracking the whip and you're not there micromanaging. Make sure that you create a culture where people are free to be themselves, free to do what they need to do, when they want to do it, where they want to do it, not be afraid to be judged, allow them to have passions outside of work. That is huge. And allow those outside of work passions to come into work. Allow people to share themselves, not just their title at work, share who they are at work. Because if you create this atmosphere of people generally love working together, generally love not just working together, being together, you got this business that just can't fail, because people are going to be passionate about coming to that, whether it's remotely or in person, but being with the people they work with. There's a stat out there, and I quote this from John Garrett, who wrote this book called What's Your And? Extremely good book. You have to, I don't know if you ever heard of it, but you need to look at it. And he talks about who you are outside of your job title, kind of what we were just saying.
Yeah.
But John has become a good friend of mine, and he has this quote that he has got the statistics from other people, but 92% of people have a passion outside of work, which I'm surprised that it's not 100%, but 92%. 96% of people who say they have 3 close friends at work are happier with their lives. Because and how are you going to create friends at work? Not because we all love auditing. It's because we all love, craft beer or mountain biking or hiking or going to museums, and you share that passion with other people you work with. You have 3 close friends at work. You're happy with your life. You're happier with your life. Business part is going to fly through too. So that's why culture is so important to me.
Yeah. And that's huge. And I think it's a mistake that some entrepreneurs do make, that they want people to eat, sleep, and breathe the business the way they do. They don't want people to take their time off. They want to right. And you have that, I don't say you, I say some people.
Yeah, no, I know.
Have a tendency to micromanage, right? And to say, they're not doing it exactly the way I would do it. I'm going to correct everybody. And then people are miserable, and you're not getting the growth, and you're not even evoking the talent from that person that they could bring to bear that you probably hired them for.
Right. Yeah.
So important what you've said.
Yeah. And John talks about this story, if you got a minute, that I think is really kind of, not only does it help the person, but it helps the business too. He tells the story of this individual who he met, who is a lead singer of a rock band in the evenings. They're an accountant, but this is what they do in the evenings. And he tells this story about how, knowing that and finding out their passion, finding out what they do, who's going to be the individual that you're going to want out doing a presentation, being in front of a crowd? Is it the person that, nothing against this, but sits at home and does puzzles by themselves all day, which is fine if that's what you love doing? Or is it the person that's going to be out in front of a crowd entertaining, that would be the one to be out presenting? Knowing that outside of work passion just helps you inside of the office as well.
Oh, absolutely. And you might not realize it, right? Their in office persona might not represent that fantastic showmanship that they actually have as a natural quality.
Yep, for sure.
Absolutely. That's great. Randy, thank you so much. Is there anything you wish I would have asked you that I haven't touched on?
Oh, if you ask me that, I'll keep going for hours. So we probably should. I mean, the one thing is the whole mental health thing, but that if we started that now, we'd go another hour. So we probably can schedule that for another day.
That sounds perfect. Excellent. All right, great. Randy, thank you so much for being with us. What is the best way in case people want to listen to your podcast or touch base with you or connect?
Yeah, so LinkedIn's probably where I'm hanging out the most. Just, Randy Crabtree on LinkedIn. I'm sure you find me. Our website is tri-merit.com. There's a link to my information on there too, and everybody on our team. And the podcast is called the Unique CPA Podcast. So if anybody wants to go listen, and it's not tax and accounting. It is stuff like we just talked about. It's like, what are these interesting interesting things people are doing specifically in our profession to be change agents, to, change the way that we're looking at, to not feel like someone has to sit at their desk 80 hours a week and bill by it. I mean, there's so many things that these really unique people are doing. And so the Unique CPA podcast talks about that.
Excellent. Excellent. And all those links will be in the show notes. Randy, thanks so much for being with us today. I have loved talking to you.
Well, thank you. I had a great time. I really, really appreciate it.
And thank you, listener, for listening. I want you to think, who needs to hear this wonderful story of corporate culture, of mental, getting your work-life balance right so you don't stroke out and have a crappy health, and about numbers and taxes and all the cool benefits. So this is, I think you need to share this episode with at least 3 people for all those different hats, and they will very much thank you. And thank you for being here. This is our 2nd show of our 5th season. So thanks for being here, and see you next week.